When I first saw the headline on this story, I thought to myself, wait a sec, we've talked about, bugs and food and stuff before, kind of just half jokingly. We have an insect museum here in the city, and I think that's probably what brought it to probably some people's top of mind, right?
Because they started serving, and I remember years and
Remember?
years ago, Aaron, when we were working at another
Yeah.
radio station. It's got to be at least 15 years
What, we
ago.
get grasshoppers one day,
Yes.
would they bring us?
They brought us the plain ones and also chocolate-covered ones, and they were not pleasant to eat.
Yeah.
The little legs got stuck in your teeth.
I
There
was-
was very little flavor. It was not a
I
pleasant
was going to say
experience.
chocolate-covered sticks would be good to eat because they're chocolate-covered, but that's not the issue here. The issue is our next guest, whose name is Taras GRESCOE, is a Montreal journalist, author of 7 nonfiction books, including a new one, his latest, called The Lost Supper, Searching for the Future of Food in the Flavors of the Past. Now, you'll notice nowhere in there are bugs mentioned, but they're an important part, I believe, of what this story is all about. Taras is on the line right now. Thanks for being here this afternoon.
Hey, a real pleasure to be with you.
Let me start by, first of all, this is a really specific sort of look you've taken here. You traveled basically to different parts of the world to try to research what foods not only exist now, but existed, I guess a long time ago. And am I wrong in suggesting here, Taras, that what you're saying is that basically our tastes have narrowed, not expanded over the years? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, definitely the range of foods that we eat compared to, say, our hunter-gatherer past, when we drew from a vast array of food webs, has narrowed. 60% of calories come from 3 grasses, basically: rice, corn, and wheat. And you go into a supermarket and it looks like there's all kinds of things from all around the world, but kind of when you drill down into the ingredients, it's actually a pretty narrow number of industrially made foods, often, genetically modified or scientifically hybridized. So I was attracted by the idea of the fact that there was a lot more intensity and range in the foods we ate in the past. And you mentioned insects. I mean, I remember going, when I first moved to Montreal from Vancouver 25 years ago, I went to a bug tasting event at the Insectarium, it's called. My kids still go there.
Yeah.
And I remember having, wok-fried silkworm chrysalids with queen ant wine from China. And at the time, I was like, this is an interesting novelty. So people are telling us that, bugs, which were an important part of our diets at some points in human history, are going to be the food of the future. So that was sort of one of the things I was investigating in one of the chapters of the book, the first chapter and the last chapter. And it's a small part of the book, but it's an important part of the book. And I'm not convinced. I intellectually, I think it's a great idea. I think there's like 10 quintillion, insects in the world, a huge, massive insects. And that would make a lot of sense if we could eat them. It's a good source of protein and all kinds of minerals. My experience, however, was that, like Natasha, I tried to incorporate them into our diet in the form of chapulines, which are these sort of lime-fried crickets from Mexico. And my kids are not buying it.
Why is that not a surprise? Yeah.
Yeah, I can slip a few into the quesadillas now and then. My oldest son, Desmond, likes them. But my youngest son, Victor, no way. So and another thing about bugs is they're kind of expensive. In the book, I went to the world's largest cricket farm, which is near Peterborough, Ontario. And they're raising them in these old chicken barns. And I think there's 30 million of them.
Oh, my God.
But it turns out I tried to eat them in, protein shakes, that kind of thing. It was okay, but it was expensive. So what I decided to do in one of the first chapters of the book was go down to Mexico City, where they have elevated bugs into haute gastronomie. You go to the best white tablecloth restaurants in Mexico City, and there's some of the most expensive things on the menu. And Mexico City almost changed my mind about entomophagy, because, man, it was delicious. I had a thing I'll never forget called champo locos. These are they were served in these really nice corn tortillas with the guacamole, and they're basically the worms of that grow in the Maggie plant, which makes tequila and stuff like that. They were so delicious. They were like these little butter-filled sausages almost.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, because they're braised in tequila. That's why they're
I was
really
just
good.
going to say, no, they weren't. I am not buying that, Terrace. It's because the Mexicans, it's got to be the seasoning. It's got to be the approach to make it.
No way. It was basically the quality of the insects. And Mexicans, like middle and upper class Mexicans, will pay a lot of money for these things. Escamoles. You doubt me.
I do.
But I went to one of the best restaurants in Mexico City. It was called Azul, and they made these things called escamoles, which are the eggs of flying ants. They're fried in butter, and it's true that the seasoning is quite nice. They use a herb called epazote. But by the time I'd finished in Mexico City, I was convinced this is a great food. But bringing it back home was another question. I really don't think bugs are the food of the future, except in one way. We could really use them feeding them to livestock, because right now we catch fish, we feed livestock soy, we grow things. If we got some of the protein in the diet of, chickens and pigs, that kind of thing, that would make a lot of sense. Anyways.
But wait, but you're saying even though, like, let's say that was to happen, that's expensive in and of itself? Too expensive?
To feed them to livestock?
Yeah. I mean,
actually, that's a really
doable.
Good solution. And there are some bugs that can be fed on waste and grown in cities. I talked to a guy in London who is doing it with, I think it's called the soldier fly. These weird flies that he kind of grows in this automated operation. And actually, the economics of that work really well. That makes a lot of sense. So instead of catching, anchovies and sardines, that kind of thing, grinding them up and feeding them to livestock, makes sense to use bugs. But listen, the book is not all about bugs. It's just one chapter. I went all over the world. I went to Turkey to discover this ancient herb called Philphion, which was, said to have disappeared 2,000 years ago. Listen, we found it growing on the flanks of a volcano. National Geographic sent me there. And it's delicious. It's a blast from the past. We cooked it up in a botanical garden in Istanbul using recipes from an ancient Roman cookbook, and it knocked my socks off. It was incredible. So it was a lot of fun, this book. I brought some of these lessons home, and now I incorporate a lot of these things into my own cooking and a lot of the lessons.
So that's what I was going to ask you is, like, when it comes to what we're going to be eating in the future, I assume your sons, Desmond and Victor, are pretty much your litmus test. Like, if they're not going to eat it, chances are the next generation is probably not going to be too into it.
Yeah. That said, Victor is a real picky eater. I mean, basically, he's 7 years old, and he's just barely got beyond the phase where he'll eat anything beyond cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, and, like, pasta with no sauce. Desmond is way more adventurous. So, some people are neophobic, and I appreciate that. But
Terrace, I'm going to stop you. We're going to run out of time. I want to let people know, because you're right. The book only focuses that one part. We've talked about bugs because that's always interesting.
But let's have them back to talk about another chapter, because there's so much in here.
I love that you said it looks like that thing we were all told 10, 15, 20 years ago, giving that example of bugs we were given, right? That this would be the wave of the future. It's not going to happen. That's not going to be the case.
I don't think so, because the economics just don't work out.
Right.
But, I mean, if you ever go to Mexico City,
have the bugs.
Order bugs on the menu. There are some delicious.
The book is called The Lost Supper: Searching for the Future of Food in the Flavors of the Past. Available pretty much everywhere. You buy it on Amazon as well?
Sure. Okay. And all your fine local bookstores.
At all your fine local bookstores. Terrace, we will have you back, because there's a lot more to this. We don't have the time today, so just remember we were going to call you back, okay?
I appreciate that.
Okay, there you go.
Lots to talk about.
Make you think any better about bugs?
No,
okay.
I'll take a pass.
Let's go.
I'm with the kids.
Let's go to Tracy. Even if you hide them in food, kids figure that stuff out.
Yeah,
they're too smart.